Uh, okay, so now it says it's starting. I'm Michael Martinez of SEO Theory and Reflective Dynamics Incorporated. I'm here with Kent Yunk of Roaring Pajamas SEO. Hello, Kent.
Hello, everyone.
This is, we're recording this on April 29th, 2016. It's been about 2 months or 1.5 months since Kent and I last recorded an episode. I got sick. He got sick. We've both been ill and too busy when we weren't feeling ill trying to catch up on projects to be able to do this. But we're back, and it's good to be back. See, I'm dying. At any rate, Kent and I were talking about what we should talk about today, and a couple of things have come up recently. One was link toxicity, and the other was thriving communities. So we'll start off with link toxicity. I wrote about the Google Penguin algorithm on SEO Theory this week. I got kind of a wild hair up my nose because people keep asking to have good links taken down. And the SEO industry is responsible for this nonsense. They are very bad judges of what is a good link versus a bad link. None of us, me, Kent, you, whoever, none of us has the ability to determine externally what links Google or Bing are using to hurt websites and downgrade them negatively or whatever, however you want to put it. And so it's a guessing game for everybody. There's nobody. Well, there probably are some people who are better at it than others, but we have no way of knowing who those people are. And so I'm kind of fed up with takedown notices over good links. So I'll just stop right there. Kent, what would you like to say?
Well, I think that's a really good point, and I'm challenged a little bit as well, because when you're dealing with a site that actually has been notified that it has a link penalty, a manual penalty because of links, everybody scrambles, and often they go overboard by taking down every link they can physically get access to, or disavowing all those links. And the challenge, I think, there is that without a good, clear picture of what a relevant link is and the toxicity of a site pointing to your site, I think you're going to run into problems where people just don't know. And to err on the side of safety, they tend to take down anything that isn't a top branded site link. So I think that's part of the problem is the pendulum swing tendency that people have that say, hey, you know what, my site's not doing as well as it should. They may not have a manual penalty. Let's go down the list of SEO tactics, and here's one. Let's remove any link that we find to be or deem to be less than awesome.
Yeah, and of course they're using SEO metrics to weigh the value of a lot of these websites, which is completely meaningless in this context, because Google or Bing could decide to strip a website of its ability to pass value through its links and not strip it of its ability to appear in the search results. And so people are using third-party metrics, from Moz, Ahrefs, Majestic, I guess they're now called, and they're going, well, there's a high score in this metric for this website, so it's probably a good website, and it doesn't work that way. These metrics have no connection to the Bing database or the Google database, and so you have no way of knowing if the search engines trust those links or if those links are good or bad. And a lot of news websites, for example, have sold links through the years, hundreds and hundreds of them. Google's issued penalties to them. People have no real understanding of what it is that makes a link trustworthy. Most websites do not have these high metrics. Most websites are good, reliable websites. The search engines know they can trust those links, primarily because it's so hard to get links from those low-value websites. Low-metric websites are great websites from which to get links. Nobody's chasing them. More importantly, most of them would never give you a link if you tried to pay for it anyway. And so the links that we see when people ask us to look at the backlink profiles that give us concern are the ones that were the easiest to obtain. And it has nothing to do with, well, there might be a slight correlation that the domain authority or the citation flow or whatever has been inflated enough so that the site can sell links. And that's the thing is, you know, all the people who are getting the links are looking for higher SEO metrics. And so the websites that want to sell links are inflating those metrics. And it's kind of a self-feeding monster.
Right.
The natural web doesn't have those high metrics. Only a very few websites should have those high metrics. So how is it that everybody is able to buy links from websites that always have, you know, 50 or higher domain authority or whatever it is? People are not stopping to think about what's going on.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think people really don't get how algorithms work in general, and much of the behavior, in my opinion, much of the behavior is reactive. So, and that's a really hard animal to slay, right? So you can try to educate people, but you know, at the end of the day, they're using the tool to give them some kind of indication as to what they can do to make their site rank better, or to slow the decline of a site that's continuously losing ranking. So they're just looking for ways to either plug the hole in the dike, or really try to build performance. And I think the challenge there is removing links doesn't always get you there, and in many cases it goes in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean, when you're killing good links, obviously that's going to hurt the site's performance. But with an algorithm like Penguin, killing the links doesn't do anything until the Penguin algorithm is updated. Now, if there are other quality algorithms that are updated more frequently that are downgrading the links, then killing the bad links should work. Googler John Mueller said in a hangout a few months ago that if you have this much negative link value, this much positive link value, then your site does badly when you have this, that's negative, and your site does well when it does this, that's positive. So getting more positive links may be hard. That's why a lot of people are trying to get rid of the negative links. But the problem is they're just taking both sides of the equation down. And there are some links, some easy to get links that a lot of SEOs recognize as obviously spammy. I don't mean to pick on Weebly. There are a lot of good there actually are a lot of good websites at Weebly, but a lot of people will go out to Weebly and create a one-page website and use that as a linking resource. That kind of stuff is easy for everybody to recognize, and when you get rid of that, that's great. But if you're dealing with a Penguin downgrade, it's not going to change anything.
Right.
And you just, you have to wait. So what I said this week in my SEO Theory article, I actually wrote 3 articles, one on the Reflective Dynamics blog, one on my SEO blog on znite.org, and one on SEO Theory. And basically, I said, if you've been waiting 18 months for a Penguin upgrade, you need to get off the damn website. Change the domain name, or go to a subdomain. Don't redirect or canonicalize the old pages to new pages. Start over fresh, and you have a clean slate to work with. And this is something that every SEO agency should be having with their clients at the beginning of a link cleanup relationship. I don't have a problem with an SEO agency doing link cleanup if they've discussed all the options with the client. Some people just want to stay with the old domain. I get that. No matter how many people they have to lay off, they're going to stay with the old domain. You can keep the old domain, right? You don't have to give up the registration. You can even keep content on it. You could like de-index it and take it out of Google for a year or so and build up value in this other domain. But anybody who wants to go to the old domain can still do that, and you should be fine. But the SEO industry has done a really bad job of managing client expectations with the Penguin situation.
Well, it's a big cluster, I think, because nobody knows enough, right? They know enough to say, hey, these sites got hit, but they don't know enough about how algorithms work to be able to say, this is why, and how do you avoid it, or how do you take advantage of it. Yeah. So the other thing that I thought was interesting that just happened in the last couple of weeks is the change in Google publishing PageRank. Now Google's basically taken everybody's PageRank down to 0, and so I'm pretty sure that one of the ranking factors that these SEO tools have been using is sort of this historical PageRank data. And good news, bad news is that is completely gone. Every site that I've gone to over the last week is now 0. So there's no.
They should have done this 10 years ago.
I know it was an enticement, and we took the bait.
Yeah, and unfortunately, enough time has now gone by that too many SEO providers have now become accustomed to trying to guess what the toolbar PageRank should be by looking at these SEO tool metrics. Right. And so the damage that Google could have prevented from happening is only going to be magnified by their formal killing of the toolbar PageRank, because now the people that have become dependent on these metrics, as useless as they have always been, are going to feel more dependent on them now.
Exactly. So now there's the fight between the Mozes and the Majestics and all these various SEO tool companies that have their own domain rank and page rank variables and ranking systems that whose is the most accurate, whose uses the most relevant information to create that. At the end of the day, we're still trying to anticipate what the value is in the Google or the Bing algorithm, and there's just no way to do that. We have no insight. We can only make supposition, and that's the best we can do. So at the end of the day, you really have to look at what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. And I mean, there is actually a way to measure success, search performance. If you authenticate a website with the Bing Webmaster Toolbox or Google Search Console, then if you track the number of queries per page that drive traffic to a website, and this is a lot of data. It would take a lot of crunching. You'd have to use the APIs to download data and things like that. But you could crunch numbers for the search performance on a page level basis for each website, and determine where it is competitively if you have access to multiple websites with data, which there are people who would actually give up that kind of information to some SEO tool vendor, if the SEO tool vendor would pool all the data together and aggregate it. Bright Edge kind of does something like that already.
Interesting.
Well, you worked with Bright Edge.
Oh yeah.
You and I both worked with Bright Edge, and they. I'm trying to. There's another website, another service that they compete with, and I'm trying to blank.
Search Metrics.
Search Metrics. I think they do basically the same thing too. If the client gives them access to some of the data, they can aggregate all their clients. And these companies, thousands of clients, they're looking at thousands or tens of thousands of websites data, and you're talking hundreds of millions of clicks every month. These guys could crunch some really good metrics out. Search Metrics, in my opinion, does terrible case studies. They get quoted all the time. I try to stay out of that, but they are often used as a kind of benchmark, I guess you could say, for major algorithm changes and things like that, because they'll publish their visibility reports, and their visibility analyses are not very good. Nobody's going to have a good search visibility analysis, so maybe that's being a little unfair to Search Metrics. At least they're willing to put their stuff out there where people can criticize it, but they might also be constrained by client contract terms. I don't know what their contracts look like. They could take the aggregate data that they're collecting and use it to generate some serious metrics that would be relevant to those clients, not necessarily to everybody else. Bright Edge can do the same thing.
Yeah, I think, well, and I think Bright Edge does do that in some ways, but they turn it into a tool that they can monetize. So it's not.
Oh, sure, they all do, and I accept that this is going to be monetized, but it's not. These kinds of opportunities for SEO metrics are not touched upon in the general discussion as much as they should be, compared to the sham analyses that are being promoted all over the web.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think that's actually true as well for some of the audit tools. There are tools out there that you can point at a URL and it'll give you a bunch of data points about your site. And so I think some of the data points are relevant, but some of them are like, I don't know if there's anything of value there, right? They can really help people do anything with their site aside from entice them to pay for a subscription.
Yeah. Well, the thing about any tool, whether it's a plugin or a website theme or an analytical tool, is that it doesn't integrate human judgment into it. And the human judgment behind these tools may be far better than the tools. Like take Yoast to Vault. Of course, he's got a whole team of developers working on the Yoast SEO plugin, but he's a pretty smart guy. And if you asked him, if you could get him to personally look at a website and play with it, over time and optimize and things like that, he'd probably outperform his SEO plugin by far.
That makes sense.
All the tools have to make some sort of assumptions. They have to benchmark quality in their assessments somehow. And websites are just too distinctive for that to be a really good way to do it. It's not really.
Agreed.
So we've probably beaten that one to death. Let's talk a little bit about thriving communities. And you've been busy enough that you didn't actually see what happened. Gary Ellis of Google, somebody asked him a question. I forget exactly what it was, but he ended up saying that they take the existence of a thriving commenting community on a website into consideration in their algorithm. And he said that they gave it a very low weight. He made some comparisons with like links and content, and they have a lot of weight, and the thriving communities very little weight. And Barry Schwartz immediately published an article on the Search Engine Rounds table where he said it's a major ranking signal. How you go from low weight to major ranking signal, I still haven't quite figured out. Barry writes a lot of sensationalist headlines. He doesn't. He's not a full-time journalist. He runs a web design company, and every morning for about 2 hours, he just goes out and finds what he can find and synthesizes it down. So I cut him some slack. I think a lot of other people cut him some slack, but sometimes his headlines are like totally the opposite of what he should be saying, and that was one of them. But a number of people, 2 or 3 people that I saw, got on Twitter and tried to find out more about this thriving community thing. And they're asking questions, and so it's obvious to me that somebody out there is going to try and come up with a way to make thriving communities a commodity. And you'll be able to sign up with some service or some tool or something like that, and it'll build a thriving community for you. And I wrote about this at length in today's newsletter, how I would envision people trying to do this stuff and what I would look out for in terms of, when a client comes to you and says, well, somebody's offered me this, what do you think? My reaction to all my clients, many of whom are subscribed to the newsletter anyway, is going to be, don't do it. It's even if it seems to help at first, once it builds up enough critical mass, search engines are going to come down on it really hard. I think they can already tell what a bad community, a fake community looks like, because they've seen them for so long, with the spam comment problem that we've had for over 10 years. So,
right.
And that's, since you haven't seen all that, you can only go by what I just said.
Well, I'm curious though, for sites that are predominantly comment based, right? So you've got ask.com, which is now moved from being a search engine to sort of a user generated content based site. I think it's interesting for them that if this is in fact thriving communities, then that would be considered a thriving community, right?
Yeah, question and answer sites are definitely community sites. I think somebody cited answers.com in a thriving community discussion. I don't remember exactly what it was, or I might be confusing that with the discussion around Jelly, which just came back online. That's the new question and answer search engine, or human to human search engine. That the community concept has been tried in so many different ways. You have web forums, you have blogs with comments, you have social media websites. And anybody who wants to run a social media website can do that. All you have to do is install BuddyPress on a WordPress website, and there are themes built on top of BuddyPress that will let you do social media sites. I have one on one of my sites that I haven't opened up to the public because I don't have time to moderate it. But there are just tons and tons of ways you can do this. And question and answer sites are obviously another way that you can create a community. And so what is it going to take a spammer to fake it for any of these formats? I mean, they're already faking forum discussions. They're already faking blog comments. I don't know if they're faking social media, but they could. It's just it's a script issue. And so if you want to start up a new question and answer site, wikis are another kind of thriving community, that people could consider. But if you want to fake a question and answer site, that's easily done, right? The simplest way would be to do a blog with comments, and you could build out from there. There are actually, now that I think about it, WordPress plugins that let you do question and answer format kind of things. I guess along the Quora and answers.com. And
then you got the next door, right? Which is a thriving community in and of itself. Yeah.
So it's something that I think is going to be gamed. One of the so-called black hats, Jacob King, came down on it on Twitter. He said, "This is not a signal, folks. I mean, whether he's right or wrong doesn't really matter. There is some skepticism, at least from that crowd. He's not what I would consider the hardcore black hat, but he has certainly openly discussed doing some things that I don't do. And so his black hat credentials, I think, are a little bit stronger than mine. It remains to be seen how important this is going to become to the SEO pundit community. Those will be the people who will create the problem. They'll write their case studies on Moz and Search Engine Land and Search Engine Journal, and there are 2 or 3 other websites where these people go to publish this crap content, and they will drum up support for it, make everyone convinced that it's really working. They'll have SlideShare decks that they'll upload. We did this, and then this happened, and there's no science in how they determine that these things are connected, but they make it look good in their presentations, and everybody will start talking about doing thriving communities. If we don't hear more about thriving communities in 6 months, we might dodge that bullet as an industry. But my impression of the SEO industry is that if there's a really stupid idea that someone circulates, everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon and do it. That's just the way it's gone.
Something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to. A lot of clients are going to have weird discussions with their SEO providers. What about this thriving community thing? So, good luck, guys.
Great.
Well, we've not quite burned up 30 minutes, but I guess if you want to call it a day, we could do that.
Don't have any other topics for today just yet, so.
Okay. Well, we've both been sick, and I am feeling a little congested. I was faking the cough earlier, but talking does kind of make it worse. So we had a couple of good topics. I hope people get something out of it. I'm glad people are watching the channel, especially since we haven't done anything in several weeks. But where we'll try and get back on track and do this again every Friday. So thanks for watching.
Yes. Everybody have a great weekend.
And we'll see you later. Bye.